Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast as we review Week 17 of the 2024 NFL season. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, here with a returning guest, one of the third and long podcast. With us today is 49ers fan Ollie Hope. Ollie, how are things?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Andy. I always enjoy coming on this podcast. And, the Niners haven't had the best season, but looking forward to next season. It's 2025 now. New season is almost around the corner, so hoping for a better one.
You say it's around the corner. It's going to feel like a lifetime away. It's
Yes, it really will.
When a Super Bowl happens, it's always great because you have the build up to the game and the game happens itself. And afterwards, you're thinking, after watching it, now I've got to wait, 6-7 months before the. So, yeah, it's always the longest, but it always flies by. Before we know it, we're back again, talking all things NFL, previewing seasons, all of that. So, yeah, it's now, we've only got 1 week left of the regular season. Only 1 more week of red zone, and all that kind of stuff. But before we know it, the year will fly by, and before we know it again, it'll be, Premier League season's just begun, NFL season's around the corner. So yeah, it's always a bittersweet moment when the NFL season finishes. And of course, it was great meeting you in person for the first time back in October with friends of ours, Baldy and the Big Fella, who we were on their podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, it was nice to meet you for the first time in person.
Yes. Down at TGI Fridays at Leicester Square.
Right. Yeah, it was good. It was good to meet up.
It was good fun.
It was. Yeah, it was. It was. I like the food there, so the food was good. It was. It was just nice to. We do all these podcasts, over Zoom or StreamYard, and you have these guests on, or you have guests on, and to actually meet them after so long of getting to know them via messaging and via like Zoom and StreamYard. It's nice to. It's always nice to meet up in person.
Yeah, the stars definitely aligned that day because I'd never been to Reading for work before, and I haven't been to Reading with work since. So,
yeah,
the stars definitely aligned.
Quite a day for you, though, wasn't it? It was quite the long day. You had to sit you up at like 5 or 6 in the morning. Was that right on that day?
It was 6:30.
6:30. Yeah, that's a long day.
And then I got the 11:30 train back.
Oh wow, that is a long day. That is a long day, and yeah.
It was worth it to meet you and everyone, though. It was a great day.
It was good. Obviously, the London games were good, and of course yourselves, all you boys were there. We've had most of the boys, apart from Phil, have been on since London. We've had Shane on talking about his bus journey back, which had the problems there, which I heard about on the podcast. We talked about it on your show, and then we had Ollie on, and now we've got you. So getting all the
I know about journeys back because on the way back from the second game, my dad's car broke down just as we were getting on the M25. Jesus. So our AA guy came, couldn't fix it. Had to wait another 3 hours. Tow truck came and towed us all the way back to Bath and got home at 2 a.m.
I bet you were knackered by the end of it.
And then got home, took it to the car shop the next day. It was a loose spark plug because my dad had a service a couple of days before.
Right, okay. It does seem mad that you start the day off watching a game which starts 3 hours before the normal game start, like normal 6 p.m. slate, and you're home during Sunday Night Football. It just shows how long day it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about Week 17 in the NFL, and it started off with what seems like a lifetime ago. Chiefs against Steelers. The Chiefs won by 29 points to 10, and then the Ravens took on the Texans, and this was quite a weird scoreline, 31-2. It was apparently it isn't scoreline. I mean, there have been a 31-2 before, which I was convinced that it wasn't. It was the first time they had a scoreline, but pretty good day for the Ravens. I think there for me hitting form at the right time. Lamar Jackson had 3 total touchdowns, over 200 total yards. Derrick Henry had 147 yards and a touchdown as well. Whereas for CJ Stroud, he had no touchdowns, 1 interception. And yeah, he got sacked loads of times as well in this game. The actual number on his sack total is now my phone's messing up trying to show me the thing, but it's for me. I want to talk to you. I think the Ravens, you all know what the Ravens are. We know they're a good team, but the Texans, a team that had so much hype going into the year, they've won their division, but they're 9-7. It's not. I don't think, for me personally, being the season we all thought they'd have. And for me, I'm massively concerned about them going to the playoffs. I think they will be one and done. But just how concerned were you after watching that Ravens Texans game?
Well, to be honest, my first thought was it's nice that the Ravens are ruining somebody else's Christmas this year. Because obviously in Christmas 2023, I think it was 1 a.m. on Boxing Day, the Ravens put on a masterclass against the Niners with Brock Purdy throwing 4 interceptions. But yes, I was actually talking about this with the Third and Long podcast people on our WhatsApp chat yesterday. I was saying that I actually think it's more beneficial potentially finishing fifth in this conference to finishing third, because I think the Texans away is probably an easier game than the Texans away is probably an easier game than the Chargers at home at this point, because the Texans are just they're just not looking like their usual self, and CJ Stroud, since Tank Dell's gone down, has just looked distracted.
Yeah, it's. I think we saw some signs of it when they lost Stephon Diggs, but I think they managed to still find enough room to get wins together. And I think the problem even goes beyond Tank Dell, but that obviously has been the kickstart of what's been a really poor few weeks. But I think the O-line has been a massive problem all year. I mean, Stroud, along with Williams, are the two most sacked quarterbacks. And whilst I'm aware that, I think currently, 5 or 6 of the top 10 most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL are making the playoffs, I still think that the O-line is a massive concern. And I think when you think about who they're going to be playing, it's most likely going to be the Steelers or the Ravens.
The Steelers with TJ Watt.
I mean, that's the thing, TJ Watt, or whether it's anyone like Ravens defense, which actually they've actually been quite good in the run stopping, but anyway, that's beside the point. But I think whoever they are playing, whether it's the Ravens defense, their DNA bleeds defense, or whether it's the TJ Watt, as you're saying, it's just, I don't see any way that this Texans team, based on what I saw against Ravens, basically all season long, will be able to withstand that. And I think, for me, I think Texans, whilst it's good for them to be there, I think they'll be happy they're just competing again. I do feel like this year hasn't been quite what we all thought.
Yes, especially considering they made to the divisional round next year, and honestly were quite unlucky to lose. They have been a tad disappointing this year, and CJ Stroud hasn't looked the same as he did in his rookie season.
I agree. It's been a bit of a sophomore slump. Whether that's going to last, whether it's just 1 year, we'll wait and see. But I think obviously we all know the talent's there, and I think even in the loss against the Chiefs, he showed what he can do when he's actually given the protection. But I think the O-line just can't continue to do basically what happened with Deshaun Watson at times. He had a victim a lot of times of a bad O-line, and I think even with Laramie Tunsil he's getting on as well. I just think that this O-line is a massive concern, and I think that that 5th seed is going to be probably more desirable than, certainly if you want to win a playoff game, you'd probably rather be 3rd seed for more progression longer term, because you've got the home advantage for longer. But at the same time, I do feel that I'd much rather be the 5th seed for that game, because you got a way more chance of winning. Speaking of winning, if you want to win some money, head over to fantasygameday.app and use the code Andy5 for your chance of winning money back on your first paid lineup. Don't forget, it's 18 plus and be gamble aware. And of course, Ollie, I need to mention, because I'd like to ask all our guests this around this time of year. Of course, these 2 games you just mentioned just then were on Christmas Day. Of course, we all know what that entails, family time. How did you get around that with I know you've got a family who do watch it, so how did you get around Christmas Day watching it when you had family stuff going on that day?
So I actually did not watch any American football on Christmas Day, because I actually go up near Manchester for Christmas Day, and I managed to see both sides of the family as they live about 6 miles from each other. So luckily enough, I was able to do that. But I've watched both of the games in 40 on NFL Game Pass, so I have seen the games. But no, I think I got home about 11, so got to watch the second half of the Ravens game. But I didn't watch much American football on Christmas Day itself.
Yeah, it is hard, because even though I think we got lucky in that sense, our end of the pond, because the games are like, if you're watching America, for example, it's probably more ingrained in their culture, but they're watching games like 1 p.m, probably a lot harder to get that done. But think about 6 p.m in the UK for most families, it is all but done. And we ourselves, the family, we were done with the meal. Just a case of playing some games, watching TV, watching Gavin and Stacey. So it was a matter of the first game for me. To be honest, it was just on in the background. I was going back and forth between answering the quiz questions, watching the TV. But then the second game came about, which I think a bit of it was Gavin and Stacey, but for a lot of it, certainly after half time, it was all systems go. My brother, mentioned before, Raiders fans, me and him watched a bit of it, and then the game was starting to get a bit one-sided. Rob went to bed, and I watched it until I fell asleep, and I watched the rest like you in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was.
I called it a day when the Raiders pulled the Ravens pulled their starters.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I was towards the start of the fourth quarter. Josh Johnson, that's it, came in at quarterback, and I was like, at that point, I called it a night and went to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did stop, I think, around midway through the fourth quarter. I just knew it was done. Just skipped the 10 seconds to make sure I wasn't missing any great comebacks. But not exactly the best probably end to a game. But again, I wasn't good for the entirety. Was the game on Thursday Night Football as the Bears lost 6-3 to the Seattle Seahawks, and there was chants of the Bears fans chanting "Sell the team." And then moving on to Saturday, we had the Chargers beating the Patriots by 40 points to 7. And the Rams would win the NFC West by winning their game 13-9 against the Cardinals, and some other results on Sunday going their way. But I think the game of the week, you could argue game of the season.
Yeah, I was about to say game of the week. I think it's game of the season.
I mean, it's that or Bills Rams for me.
Sorry,
Bills Lions for me. Bengals Broncos, an absolute thriller. By 30-24, a win for the Broncos. But there was so much to digest from this game. I mean, you think about, I think the first three quarters were pretty standard, back and forth. Third quarter began, it was, 10-9 to the Bengals. And then start of the fourth quarter, the Bengals get a touchdown through T. Higgins. And then Mims gets a 51-yard touchdown catch to make it 17-16 before T. Higgins fumble. And there was interception from Bo Nix by Pratt. And then Jamar Chase had a 38-yard catch, 11-yard catch. They were running down the field, and they got it. And the thing for me was, at the end of that fourth quarter, there was that point in the game where they should have arguably, taken the knee or waited time. They went for the touchdown. They got a touchdown early, about a minute and 30 left of the game. And then the Broncos go down the field, and they once again, they get touchdown. One of the catches of the season as well from Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
And then overtime was even more of a classic. You think about, the missed field goal to win the game. And then, I can't think who it was now. Cade York, that was it. Cade York with the missed field goal. And then the Bengals missed their chance to go down the field. It comes back to the Bengals, and Joe Burrow throws a winning touchdown to T. Higgins in, one of the craziest games I've watched in years. And I think whilst you think about Bills Rams as well as Bills Lions, which were both high scoring, I think you probably didn't get much of a defensive element to it. But I think this game you got to see the best of the offense and the best of the defense at times in what was one hell of a game.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird game because the first 3.5 quarters really was very, very defense heavy. And then in the fourth quarter, it was almost like both quarterbacks popped the safety off, and I think they both scored 14 points each in the fourth quarter. And then overtime, again, both teams had a chance to win it and failed. And then Joe Burrow proved why, if his defense could actually stop something, would probably be in the conversation for MVP and possibly in the AFC North battle. It's a pity his defense hasn't done it for him when he has been probably the best quarterback this year, and he proved it again. And potentially it could be T. Higgins' last game in Cincinnati. I know reports have come out today that he would be willing to stay for less money, but the Bengals haven't been exactly rushing to the negotiation table, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's. I think they need to keep him because if you've got that double threat of Chase and Higgins, it makes such a difference. And Yossi Vaz as the third option, I think, is done really well this year. But I think I want to ask you. Well, it's been a theme this weekend. We'll get on to more to another game, but time management has been a massive thing this weekend, and this was one of the games where I was questioning some of the decision making from the coaching staff. I mean, obviously, Bengals absolutely fine. They still won the game, but I think if they'd lost that game after not trying to run it down to the later seconds of the fourth quarter and just kick a field goal to win it, then I think there'd be a lot of questions after Zach Taylor. I think that would be the moment off. That would have officially kicked them out of the playoffs. I think if they'd lost that game and it was down to the fact they had like they did, not run the clock down and go for touchdowns so early, I think it could have been problematic for Zach Taylor. I think there'd have been a lot more Bengals fans calling for his head because I thought it was so brave to do that, and I think it was not really a sensible risk. Obviously, it has worked out fine in the end, but it could have been so much worse, couldn't it, for Zach Taylor?
Yeah. I like aggressive play calling. I do like that. But I think it needs to be aggressive play calling with a brain. And just the most important thing, whether you play conservatively or play aggressively, is to win the game. So for me, in that position, I think the thing to do is to run the clock down, kick the field goal, and don't take it to overtime.
I agree. I mean, I am Mr. Conservative. I am Mr. Tory when it comes to NFL play calling. I'm always in favour of take the points. Or I think if I was an NFL head coach, I think I'd be quite a very conservative head coach. I don't think I would be taking too much risk, which probably might cost me a job. I think if I was an NFL coach, I think maybe it wouldn't be the longest stint in the world. But I think, I'm certainly of that method of don't take any risks, don't do anything that you may learn to regret. I think we'll get onto more later on. And someone else who I think took a massive risk, which again became, in the end, sort of unpunished. But we move on to Sunday because there were other games going on Sunday. It was the Jets and Bills. Bills beat the Jets by 40-14. The Jags beat the Titans by 20 points to 13. The Raiders beat the Saints 25-10. And the Eagles beat the Cowboys by 41-7. The New York Giants beat the Indianapolis Colts by 45-33, a result that officially eliminates the Indianapolis Colts from playoff contention. And what looks like right now has moved the Giants from the fourth to the first seed. Now, we're going to quickly touch on that because that wasn't in the script, but I want to talk about it quickly. Drew Lock has had quite a impactful performance. It's impacted so many teams. I think that with that, it obviously got Malik Neighbors 1,000 yards, and the fact that it now means that a 4 seed rather than the 1 seed with just 1 game left. The Raiders doing the same thing. They won and they ruined their tank a little bit. And obviously the Colts being eliminated as well. I mean, it was, for me personally, a result that I didn't really expect too much. I didn't think that we had our predictions with Dan Toomey. No one had the Giants winning this game. I thought it'd be pretty easy. I thought it'd be a win for the Colts, but no, turns out that Drew Lock has completely potentially ruined 2-team seasons.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Lock, he threw 4 touchdowns and run in another one in this game, which, to be honest, was a kind of performance I did not think he would be capable of against a decent Colts defense. I was watching Red Zone, so I didn't see that much of this game, but I was very surprised that, both teams seemed to be pretty free scoring, especially with Joe Flacco as the quarterback of the Colts. But yeah, I really didn't think the Giants had a performance like that in them. But it's made Ollie Butler Henson, another one of the third and long crew, pretty happy because now the Patriots, his team, are now on track to get the first team, assuming Buffalo beat them on Sunday.
Well, that's the thing. You got 4 teams at the moment with the same amount of wins, with 3 wins. So you've got the Browns, the Titans, the Patriots, and also the New York Giants. So it's I think Sunday will be quite an interesting day for many reasons, but I think one of them will be who actually gets the number 1 overall pick, because I think you think Patriots are going to go. I think it'll be a lock. They'll get Travis Hunter, but I think other than that, I think, do teams go, another year without a quarterback and take Hunter as well, like the Titans, for example, or maybe someone like the Giants, or do they just go for the future and get Sanders or get Cam Ward? So it's very interesting what they'll do, and I think that'll be another exciting, element to Sunday.
Ollie wants to trade back.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I can see potentially the Titans do that, but I don't think they'll. I think they'll want to move
Yeah,
on from Levis or Mason Rudolph. But I think the Browns
yeah,
certainly would. They want to keep Winston? I doubt it because he's had his moments. So I think I think Patriots certainly I think would look to trade back because they can get so much capital for that,
yeah,
especially from the Giants if they want to trade that because they've lost so much in recent years.
yeah. It's funny. It's funny you talk about the Browns because I thought the Browns were going to move on from Deshaun Watson,
Mm,
but then this week the news came out about the fact that they restructured Deshaun Watson's contract,
mm,
which made me think that maybe they're not moving on from him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
yeah,
I actually don't think there's any first round quarterbacks in this draft, which is quite controversial.
interesting. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think Sanders is all that. If you look at
okay.
who he's actually against top 25 opponents in the last 2 years when Sanders has been starting at Colorado University, they're 0-9.
Wow, that's interesting because I don't watch college anywhere near as much as NFL, and so I have to trust other people's opinions on these players. So all I've heard so far is good things. If I'm hearing that, then yeah, it's interesting.
I think I honestly think Sanders has a lot more hype around him
Mm,
just because of who his dad is rather than his
mm.
actual talent. And Cam Ward is probably the best quarterback talent coming into there, but I'm not sure he's first round.
That's interesting. I mean, we will be doing our mock draft coming out, our usual one with our usual group of people we do it with, but it'll be interesting to see who takes who in the draft, and that's obviously content to come in the future. Our annual mock draft that's obviously way in the future, but right now let's stick to week 17. And Ollie, I want to ask you a question: was week 17 a sausage company?
Okay, I think there's a joke coming here, but
Because
I
it keeps serving bangers. The Packers
yeah.
and the Vikings put out a thriller as the Vikings kept their seed alive for number one. They won by 27-25. The Buccaneers thrashed the Panthers by 48 points to 14. And the Dolphins kept our hopes alive of the playoffs with a 20-3 win over the Cleveland Browns, with Tyler Huntley, our backup quarterback, getting the job done. And that's my next sort of direction is this game. I mean, it was I think when Tua got knocked out injured, I was expecting, when they announced Huntley was starting, I was thinking, right, this might be the banana skin we don't need to end our season officially. But Huntley looked pretty good. I mean, he had no picks, one touchdown, 225 yards. I think he looked way better then than he ever did in those games he played previously when Tua was down. And now it just means, we'll go into it more in our Week 18 preview, but we win our game against the Jets, which I'm going to be going to in Week 18, and combine that with the Broncos losing to the Chiefs, playing their backups, win the playoffs, which I never expected. When we were 2-6, I never expected to be in this position of being in the hunt with one game left. To go 6-2 our last 8 games is a credit to the whole team really, and how we've managed to go from do we tank, just try and get a good player high up, or do we try and just win games and end on a high? We've actually done really well since, and could still end on a winning season. Still could not make the playoffs even with a winning season, but to have a winning season after how he started is just a real testament to this team. I mean, Anthony Weaver, the defense has been exceptional, I think, in recent weeks. He's got better, I think, as the year's gone on, and held Brown to just 3 points in the whole game. I think, against a struggling Jets offense, Aaron Rodgers especially, who was benched at one point during the fourth quarter, seemingly actually quit on this team, which is a crazy thing in itself. I think for me, it's a real testament to our team. And I think the game was really good. I mean, the defense was brilliant. Jalen Ramsey rolling back the years late on in the game as well. I think, without Waddle as well. I think all round, we have the hope. Now we have to hope on, Chiefs backup doing us a favour. But I think all round, I'm very happy with how this team's improved so much since what was a really, really bad start of the year.
Well, I actually really like the Dolphins. They're definitely my top 5 teams. So I would definitely like to see the Dolphins make the playoffs. And I wasn't too distraught when you guys beat us a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
But the fact that you're going to this game isn't exactly a great omen, is it?
No. I mean, it's going to be a thing, isn't it, where I finally see us win a game, but we get knocked out of the playoffs. It could easily be that. I have to hope that I'll see us win and also make the playoffs. But I bet you in money it'll be a case where we finally win a game in person I've been to, but we still the disappointment of not making the playoffs will overshadow that. So that's the way it could happen. But
were you at the Dolphins Jets game in the UK a couple of years ago when the Jets
I was missed that sadly. But yeah, only one game in the UK actually. Dolphins. That was a Jags game. I think when they had games on before, I was sort of a casual fan back in 2014, 2015, 2007, and all that. So I think, that 2021 was the first game I went to. But yeah, it's 0-6. I've seen us play against some good teams. I've sort of played the Jags. Fair enough, that was probably a game we should have won. But I've seen us play the Vikings in 2022 when they were, I think, 6-1 at the time. Bengals, who just made the Super Bowl the previous year. Eagles, the same thing after making the Super Bowl. Chargers in SoFi. I've been to a lot of good teams. Cardinal this year, they're hit and miss. But I think if we can't beat the Jets in their current state of form, I'll never ever see us win a game. I'll never ever see us win a game in person because it's a perfect chance to end this drought.
Yeah, I'm 3-0 watching Niners.
That is just, I'm so jealous. Even Baldy, he's 2-0 this season watching the Dolphins, and he's not even a Dolphins fan. He's got many teams, I realise.
Yeah. Baldy's a fan of half the NFL.
Yeah, and not the Dolphins, which is quite annoying.
Yeah, Dolphins is definitely somewhere I'd like to go in the future to watch a game. But it's not somewhere the only actually NFL game I've seen in America was at Levi Stadium. So I'd definitely like to expand my knowledge in the next couple of years, but we'll see what happens. But back, I was just going to say back to the game. I thought Snoop Huntley looked a lot more assured. I think before when Tua was hurt last time, didn't you quickly sign him and kind of push him through? Whereas this time he looked like he knew the playbook a bit more and looked like he knew what he was effectively doing a bit more.
Yeah, it just seemed he's a lot more composed in the pocket. I mean, you think about that touchdown run he had in the game, which was kind of we didn't see any particular sign of at all in the time he had before, which is obviously one of the things he was known for with Baltimore when he was there, was his ability to be basically a Lamar Jackson from Aldi. And for me, it just looks so much better. He just looks so much better. And I think, whilst I think I wouldn't want to rely on him, I think if we were playing like a good team, I think if we were playing like against the Ravens, for example, or against that Packers game at Lambeau the other week, I think I wouldn't know if I would trust him for a game against a really good team. But I think against a Browns team that hasn't been great this year, 3 wins all year is proof of that. I think for me, that's almost like I think that's a perfect chance for him to get his confidence back. But I don't think I'd want him there. If he were to beat the Jets on Sunday and the Broncos were to lose to the Chiefs and we make the playoffs, I wouldn't want him starting, if I'm honest, against the Bills, because that would be. And actually, Scarlett Thompson actually took them pretty close a couple of years ago. So the Bills could easily have an off day, and we could catch him out. But I think Huntley has shown at times he's had these ability to have these great games when he has it been for Lamar Jackson at Baltimore. So you never know. But I even though I'm not his biggest fan, I'd much rather Tua there on Sunday than Huntley.
Is Tua? Do we know when Tua's back?
It's so unclear. Like they haven't really said much. They've also said it's a hip injury, but they haven't really said much about when he's back. I'm going to check it now, actually, on my app, because maybe there's been an update today. I've been out today, so I don't know whether there's been any updates whilst I was at the rugby. So where's the Dolphins game on here?
Because I didn't actually realise Tua was out until I started watching the game.
Okay, yeah, it was weird actually. There's only 2 games on Red Zone, which I was really surprised about. Here we are. And so
I left him in my fantasy football team and everything.
I mean, it's a good thing you did leave him out.
No. He ended up starting for me.
Oh no! So did you still?
I
win it.
I mean, it was a fight for 7th and 8th. But I still did end up winning the game against our lovely co-host Shane.
Was this our league that I was in, or NFL Fantasy?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. So I apologize because obviously I had issues with the app and I've not been able to actually get back. Who won the league this year?
Ollie Butler Henderson's 13-year-old Noah.
Oh, wow. He's showing us all that.
Yeah, a 13-year-old ended up beating a load of adults.
Wow. Goes to show, doesn't it? Goes to show. Looking at the report here, it says here an hour ago, according to Ian Rappaport, that he's limited in practice. So that's still unclear. So I reckon no. I reckon the way Huntley played, and I think the way the Jets aren't exactly playing good form, I think McDaniel can probably afford to take the risk and rest him because if you win, I think if you win the game, that's all we can do. I think we will win the game with Huntley. That's all we can do. And then obviously, if we get two back healthy, then perfect. But if not, then and we don't make the playoffs, then that's it. The season's done. So yeah, I'm not against it. I think it's I think for this kind of game, I think get Huntley in whilst his confidence is high, and we'll go from there. But of course, there'll be all eyes on that game. Of course, I'll probably be having my phone on, checking the updates on my phone, and hoping for the best. I mean, playing Man U on the same day in Liverpool, so it could be a great day or a really bad day. So looking forward to that. But it should be an exciting day for me.
When do you fly out?
Saturday. So Saturday, it's a 8:30 in the morning flight. We get there about 11:30. I'm going to watch a musical because I said I'd do something for her as well as her watching the NFL. So when me and Jess are there, it's going to be on during the Steelers and the Ravens games. So we may have time. We may go to a bar or something beforehand. It may be on. Other than that, I might have to just turn my phone off and just watch on YouTube when I get in. Or a Game Pass doesn't work in America because I have to resort to purely watching on YouTube. So that's why I'll try and avoid the results, have my phone off, and then when I get home, I'll then back to the hotel. I'll try and watch it there because it could be quite a good day for that. Speaking of which,
I'm a big fan of musicals too. So that sounds like a great weekend to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can give or take it, but Jess, she loves musicals. Sunset Boulevard, I think it's called. Watching, it's got Nicole Scherzinger in it, amongst other actors. So I don't know anything about it really. Jess is a big fan, so I think it's only fair. She's taken me to an NFL game. It's only fair that we do something for her, even though it's my birthday trip. I think it's good to do something for her. So looking forward to that, and also we've got other things planned. I don't know what they are yet. She's not telling me what we're doing yet. It's all a surprise. So exciting times, but hopefully.
Well, I hope you have a great time.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the game, of course, and try and watch Lions Vikings afterwards because that will be some game. That'll be some game. So
I go back to work on Monday, so I won't be able to watch that game, unfortunately.
Is it a game in 40 job?
Yeah, it's a game in 40 once I get home from work on Monday.
Oh, so you're trying to avoid the result all day? Are you going to try and avoid it all day? You can just know the result and just
no. I think I'll just know the result and watch it.
Fair enough.
My best mate's a Vikings fan, so I'm guessing I'll have a text from him in the morning about it.
Yeah, you can turn notifications off. That's what I do. I turn notifications off. Do not disturb on my phone. That's the way around it, I think.
Yeah, I could do that, but I'll probably just look at the result and then watch the game. Knowing the result.
That's fair. Moving on now to Sunday Night Football, as the Commanders beat the Atlanta Falcons by 30-24 to keep that NFC South title race alive. I mean, we mentioned before about the Bengals getting away with poor time management. The Falcons didn't. They completely botched their chance of winning this game because you all know what happened. The Commanders won the game by 30-24. In the end, it was a overtime win for the Commanders, but it really shouldn't have got to that point because the Falcons, they had 2 timeouts remaining with 31 seconds on the clock. They didn't use any one till 7 seconds left on the clock. And in the end, they could have easily used that clock a lot earlier, gone down the field, gone further down the field, and won that game with a field goal. And it's just the Falcons. They're we all know the 28-3 thing. We all know, we all know that history of them being known as chokers. Same with the Chargers. But this was their one chance to win a game in prime time. And it was there for taking. I mean, they missed a 56-yard field goal. When it was 24-all in the final seconds of the game. But if they just used timeouts better, if they'd used it when it got to 31 seconds, they could have done so much more with that time they had left. Think about the Bears against the Packers on Thanksgiving what week is it? A few weeks ago, Bears against the
Lions. On
Lions.
Thanksgiving.
Bears Lions. You think about what happened there with Matt Eberflus and it cost him his job. How that game ended, and I think Raheem Morris obviously is in his first year, so he'll be safe from any firing. But I thought that was just really silly and just awful time management from the Falcons. I really thought it was, in the end, what turned out to be very detrimental to their game, to the result of the game.
And if the Falcons had won, it would have put their results, it would have put their destiny in their own hands because they'd have had a chance to win the last game to make the playoffs. Now they need to win and the Bucks to lose. So it could that we don't know if they would have gone down the field, but if they had done, it effectively cost them their season.
Yeah, I mean, they did well to actually get back to being contention in the first place because the contrast between their first half and their third quarter was crazy. I mean, they had in the second half there was one point in the third quarter where Falcons had 124 rushing yards, Falcons had 3. They had 12 minutes less time of possession, and this was a stat they gave out with 6 minutes left of the fourth quarter. Same sort of time they had. I think it was same time again. They had 207 total yards, the Commanders, and the Falcons had 14 total yards. So there was a point in the game where the Commanders were completely, dominating the clock, dominating the possession, and then the Falcons just found a way to get back in the game. But then to do all of that, came back into the game, all the effort they put into getting back into the game, and then that's the thing that let them down was the clock management. Yeah, Raheem Morris has, I think, some questions to ask, but. For the Commanders, they secured the playoffs with that win. That most likely they could be the 6th seed, could be the 7th seed. I think it'll be them or the Packers battling out flat 6th seed on Sunday. Yes. But overall, it's been a great season. And Jaden Daniels, I think, put a performance in on Sunday. I think between him and Bo Nix, I think it will be for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I think with that kind of performance on prime time as well, when the whole world's watching, I think Jaden Daniels has, for me personally, locked in Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think he will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bo Nix had a great season, but I think Jaden Daniels will win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing as well that you can point to as well, the fact that only one player out of 2 is having MVP chants sang around the stadium, and it's not Bo Nix, it's Jaden Daniels. And, looking at the stat line, he had 227 total yards passing, 227 yards total passing, 127 yards rushing, 3 total touchdowns, only 1 interception. It was, what a performance from him. And I think that the Commanders, you think about where they were just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago with Dan Schneider, constantly having bad seasons. But now, they're making the playoffs again. They got a quarterback who they hope is the future, which looks right now to be the future. And then, just the vibes are good right now in Washington. They're getting a new stadium. They're going back to Washington. They're going to apparently move the stadium actually in DC, which I think is great for Commanders fans. I think overall, it's what a great time to be a Commanders fan. I think it's good times are back.
Dan Quinn is actually my pick for my pick for Coach of the Year too.
Ooh, Dan Quinn. I was thinking today. Actually, I think I might give the edge to someone like Kevin O'Connell or maybe Mike Tomlin. But I'm not against that. Dan Quinn, taking this team from a place no one thought they'd get to, and now to 11-5, would be winning the division in many other divisions this year. Just they've got
the Eagles have been incredible this year.
Yeah, so it's fair play to Commanders. I love the Washington as a place to visit. So all 4 of them doing well, and of course Riley Hartman, friend of the show, friend of mine from Washington. He will be. I'm sure I've seen on the Instagram stories how much he's been enjoying the season. So big up the Commanders. And then finally, Monday Night Football. Saw the Lions beat the 49ers by 40 points to 34. I think the game was irrelevant towards the season. Niners already out. The Lions were already going to have to win the final game regardless. But 2 sort of talk points I wanted to go through. First of all, for the Lions, why the hell did Dan Campbell play the starters? I've absolutely no idea. Or even at some point, it took him till the end of the fourth quarter to actually rest the starters. Now, I have no idea why he played the starters, because if they lost the game, a win against the Vikings would still win them the NFC North. The win didn't confirm the division this weekend, so I have no idea why Dan Campbell. For Tina had their bye week in week 5. They'll obviously get a bye. They'll get a bye in. If they win the game next week, they'll get the bye in the playoffs. But I think they're so lucky they avoided injury.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel like Dan Campbell's the kind of guy where it's like he can't not play the starters. It's like not in his DNA.
Mm.
But
I think,
again, it's the aggressive play calling, but it's the aggressive play calling with thought.
mm, but I think he wouldn't be. I'm sure. As you're saying, I'm sure it's down to him not wanting to, take a step back or wanting to just, win all the time. But I think, you come out that game and you lose Jared Goff to injury, you lose Jameer Gibbs, you lose St. Brown, they've already lost Hutchinson, and they lose anyone on that defense. They've had a defense that's already been taken apart anyway through injury. If they'd gone out the game and they lost one of their key offense playmakers, like even Penny Sewell, you know, I'm sure he would
Yeah,
have probably looked an idiot. I think he's very lucky.
especially with David Montgomery already out.
Mm. Well, there's talk that he might be back. There's talk that he could be back later on in the season. Same with Hutchinson, which
Yeah,
would be insane. But yeah, I thought they were fortunate that they got away with injury. And of course, once again, in like recent weeks, they've actually allowed a lot of points on defense. I mean, at one point, it was, I think the first 5 possessions were all scores in total from either team. We think about the last few games, of course, they gave away 40 points to the Bills a few weeks ago. Of course, in week 14 as well, they gave up. Where are they? They gave up 31 points to the Packers, and they allowed the Bears to come back in the game in that Thanksgiving game. So the defense for me, it seems to be getting more and more leaky every week, and they're losing players more week in week out as well. For me, I don't know whether you think the same thing. Has to be concerned going to the playoffs that the defense has been that bad in recent weeks.
yeah, it definitely is a concern. However, I think their offense is so explosive at the moment that they'll be able to outscore most teams. But once it gets to the business end, I assume they're going to win. I think they'll beat the Vikings and get into the divisional. I think they'll probably win the divisional, but I think it might be a concern when they start playing the very, very upper echelon teams in, conference final, Super Bowl. I think it definitely is a concern.
That's actually a great segue into one thing I wanted to ask you again, but I'm going to ask it now. First of all, I want to ask you, I'll be giving my predictions in our Week 18 preview, but I want to ask you about a few things going into Week 18 that you think happen. First of all, who wins the NFC? You've already given it there. You think it'll be the Lions over the Vikings will win the NFC North and get the 1 seed. Who do you think wins the NFC South?
The NFC South, I think the Bucks, because I think both the Bucks and the Falcons will win their games because
And
Baker's on fire at the moment.
I mean, yeah, he's just been so good. It's actually one of the feel-good stories. I think him and Sam Darnold have been one of the feel-good stories of the season, just how much they've transformed their careers. Going on to the AFC, who wins the AFC North, Ravens or Steelers?
It pains me to say this, but the Ravens.
Shane, if you're listening, there's your evidence. And then finally, who makes the 7th seed in the AFC, Broncos or Dolphins?
I actually think the Dolphins are going to do it.
There we go. Perfect.
I think Carson Wentz is good enough to steer the Chiefs to a win.
I like
And
that.
I think the Dolphins will. Yeah, I think the Dolphins will win against the Jets. So I'm going to say the Dolphins.
I like that. I mean, you got the win last season against the Chargers in Week 18. I realised that it's Brandon Staley's half the coach of of Sean Payton, but you never know. He's done it before. You never know.
And Andy Reid's a great coach too. So
yeah, I mean, we saw with it wasn't. Sorry, it was a it wasn't Wentz, was it? It was Blaine Gabbert who got the win in Week 18.
Yeah.
Not Wentz. So quickly, we'll touch on the Niners, of course. I was expecting to have you on in the postseason episodes we'll do, which may actually be limited in wildcard round because I'm in New York, but certainly divisional round and conference championship and Super Bowl. We're having, hopefully, again, fans of each team coming on to preview the games. Hoping to have you on this year, Flynn, but of course, the Niners have been underwhelming, not making the playoffs. Only 6 wins so far this year. What's gone wrong for your team?
Injuries to key players at wrong times. I mean, McCaffrey available for 4 games. Kittle's missed time. Debo's missed time. Fred Warner's been playing with a broken ankle. Dre Greenlaw only made it back for about 2 games. Purdy missed a game. It's just been a lot of injuries. I don't think Shanahan's coaching has been very good this year, if I'm honest. Before I got on this podcast, I had to change my name back to I Hope He 168 because for the podcast on Monday it was Hire an OC. And I just think a lack of depth in the positions and a poor O-line and D-line. But I am actually quite optimistic for next season. We're going to have a good draft pick, top 10 hopefully. Our schedule next season is actually very easy after it got confirmed yesterday. And if we get all our players back healthy, I'm optimistic for next season.
I like that. I love the optimism. And that is where we'll end the podcast for today. So once again, huge thank you for Ollie for coming on.
Thank you again for having me, Andy. It's always a pleasure coming on this podcast.
No problem at all. And of course, we mentioned at the start of the show, don't forget to head over to Third and Long Podcast for these guys. You've had them all on before the podcast before. You know all the names. You can catch them each week on all podcast networks. But in the meantime, this will be the end of our show. So this has been our Week 17 review with your host, Andy, and our guest today, Ollie Hope. And we'll see you guys for our Week 18 preview.